The NFL season is officially in the books. The Super Bowl now over. It is truly off-season time for the NFL. If you are excited like today's video for me, before we break down my latest 2025 NFL mock draft compared to last year, there's a lot more uncertainty about who's going to go. Number one, who's going to go in the top half of the first round. For now, I'll put Cam Ward at number one overall. To the Tennessee Titans, they need a quarterback pretty badly. Cam Ward is maybe going to end up being the consensus. Number one, that's still up for the rate, I should say, as well. I was this close to doing a trade as well, but we'll do that on a future video instead. Number two, Abdul Carter out of Penn State to the Browns. This made sense, even before Myles Garrett requested a trade. We'll see if Garrett gets dealt or not. But you can argue that Abdul Carter is the best player in this year's class. The Giants are desperate for a QB. I would be very surprised if they did not exit the draft. Maybe they get one free now, but if they don't have a quarterback going to the draft, they will get one. They are a prime trade-up candidate as well. I'll give them Shar Sanders here at number 3. Overall, very different play styles compared to Cam Ward. There are concerns with both of those players, but I'd be pretty surprised if those guys didn't go in the top 10 because of the quarterback need in this year's class at number 4 more. Then Patriots probably enjoy this outcome. They get to take Travis Hunter, who many could also argue is the best player in this year's NFL draft, given Mike Vrabel's occasional dabbling on offense. He might have a decent plan for Travis Hunter. I think could be a number 1 receiver or number 1 corner in the NFL. Maybe not both full-time, but I'd let him play both ways in the NFL. Lot of good debates can be had about who's going to go number 1 in the upcoming NFL draft. It's not set in stone. The TI don't even have a pick when it's all said and done. Get your predictions in for me right now at the pinned comment of today's video. Who is the top pick in this year's class? CW for Cam, Ward AC for Abdul Carter, SS for Shedeur Sanders, TH for Travis Hunter. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Number 5 is Mason Graham, the J, the Michigan defensive lineman with Trent Baalke. Out the Jags and take defensive or Michigan players. Again, good for them. Graham, I think, is also probably going to be a pretty consensus top 5 player in this year's class with the quarterbacks gone. We'll pretend the Raiders sign Sam Darnold or something in free agency to get their quarterback room figured out. I'll give them. McMillan thought about Ashton Jeanty, by the way. As well, maybe Chip Kelly can wait and get one of the Ohio State guys in on day 2. McMillan gives them a big body on the outside, number 1 receiver, which they don't truly have right now. The Jets are about to enter a rebuilding phase. They're a prime quarterback candidate team as well. I think taking the best player on the board. They were heavy linked to Brock Bowers last year. Now they can get Tyler Warren out of Penn State in this class, number 8. And this is kind of where it gets a little bit more controversial because there's like 5-6 guys that you will see draft experts have as their number 2 edge. So where that number 2 edge goes, this case I'll give Jalen Walker out of Georgia to Carolina. I think it's actually a pretty good fit for what they want to do on defense. That could be as high as in the top 10 or could be like barely in the top 20. And those range of outcomes, I think, will lead to a very divisive and non-consensus featured NFL draft. Number 9, Michigan's Will Johnson to the Saints. You trade Marshawn Lattimore. You're also pregnant if they're doing it right. Enter a rebuilding phase, take the young corner, keep building the defense a little bit. Number 10, Will Campbell, the offense L at LSU to Chicago. I played left tackle for the Tigers. I might want to try on the inside. there's some arm-length concerns, and I think his football IQ could also make him a dynamite center. This is the first offensive lineman taken, and again, you can argue for four guys as the best offense linemen in this class, so one will probably go top 10, one might fall out of the top 20 big range of outcomes in this year's class. 92, I think, would be a great fit for Will Campbell, by the way, with what they want to do. I'll give him Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. Medical's got to be checked out here. If the medical checks out, he could be the first offense lineman taken. He was great in a small sample size, admit this year for Ohio State. Now, today's show is made possible by Zbiotics. Zbiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's the BL. Remember to drink the probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. I am not the same young guy was in my prime. I cannot hang the way I used to. That's why you two, Zabox, for sponsoring this episode. And our good times number 12. Ashton Jeanty, the Boise State running back to the Dallas Count Buoys here. This is a very popular mock draft pick. For understandable reasons, does maybe need Dallas to invest. Actually, for once, in free agency, to make some fans feel better about it. Dolphins at 13, I think. Kelvin Banks can play tackle. I actually think he's a better fit to tackle than he is at guard. But why not put him in there at guard and upgrade and get some actual power on the interior of the offensive line? That you don't really have that guard, that those interior linemen for Miami are very underpowered. And I think the Sark offense, the Mike McDaniel offense, it's not the same, but a lot of similar characteristics. Excuse me, Malaki Starks of the Colts, here at number 14. He didn't have as good of a year. I still think the stuff we've seen previously, and the way I think he'll test means he'll go in round 1, number 15, Mike Green out of Marshall. This has been a massive riser. Not just in the pre-draft process, but throughout the year of college football. And everyone knows the Falcons needs. Falcons need pass rush out. James Pearce out of Tennessee. I don't know if he's going to be a good enough run defender early on in his career to be more than a situational pass rusher, but I think Arizona could use a situational pass rusher. So it makes sense to me. Heavy run on edges here. Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, who has rare size and traits and didn't produce the way that you need him to at the collegiate level, make him a big boomer bust prospect. I think he'll be a good run to defender early on, which would make him a good replacement for Sam Hubbard, and hope the pass rush develops around that time. Hendrickson's career ends up being over in Cincinnati, much like that offensive line conversation. Pick your second best edge. They could go in the top 10 or fall to the top 20 because there's like 5 or 6 guys that fit that mold. So who do you think, assuming Abdul Carter is number 1, you can, clarify somebody else? So who is the second best pass rusher from the outside in this class? Number 18, Armand Mew, out of Missouri. I think he's a tackle. Some people are going to view him as guards, very common in this class. But again, there's not a lot of consensus. This year, I would put him on the right side for Seattle. I can move on from the A experiment. I actually like this fit a lot, if he makes it to 18 M. Williams out of Georgia. This is a lot of the Trayvon Walker talk for both Stewart and Williams. Great athletes, great size production, simply is not there, but I think would be a good fit for what the Bucs want to do on defense. Sean Payton's made comments about trying to find a joker this year that like tight end then can catch and block, or a back can do that. I think Coulson Lelin fits that pretty well. He is almost a slot receiver at tight end for Michigan. He's not He's not the stereotypical, blocker for Michigan, tight end, but he can move. He can make plays downfield. I think that's a good fit for Sean P. Let's get the Steelers a receiver because that's a unique mock draft pick, right? Luther Burton out of Missouri. It makes sense though, right? Yak Generator, I like him a lot. He'll be a top 15 player for me in this year's class. Probably. Let's go with surprise receiver here at number 22. How about Matthew Golden over A.A. Abuka, who we will get to later on in today's show? I think Golden's more of an outside receiver. I think the Chargers need that outside receiver more than they need someone like Abuka. Although the blocking for both guys could be appealing to Jim Harbaugh. One of my favorite guys this year, Jay Barron out of Texas. I have a first-round grade on him. He might actually crack my top 10 once I get around to stacking everything. I think he's probably better in more zone schemes and can maybe do some nickel stuff for you. I think he's just an impact football player, more outside corner than Brian Branch was for his first year with Detroit, but I get kind of some similar vibes. This is one of my guys in the NFL draft who is your favorite player, not necessarily best, but favorite player in the 2025 NFL draft. Let Mem